How does the whole process work? Let's look at the one-way process first. In the one-way communication process, the sender encodes and the message is passed through the channel and it is decoded and received. But one notices that there is no feedback. The sender does not know whatever has been sent has been received the way it was supposed to be received. Let's look at the two-way process where the sender is encoding, sending the message to the receiver. The receiver then decodes and there is a response which comes back to the sender, and hence there is certainly a verification that can happen whether what was supposed to be conveyed is what has been received, and if any rectifications have to be made, can be made. So a two-way process is a more effective way of communicating. What are the objectives or the purpose of communication? The objectives of business communication would include the following: to inform. The top management may want to inform the various levels downwards that there will be a change possibly in the ownership. That could be an example. To persuade. An HR manager may want to persuade a candidate to join the company, and hence he may want to position his company in such a way. A salesman may want to persuade somebody to buy his product. To educate, we may have technical material which gives us details about certain products to educate us as to how it works. To train, it may be verbal, it may be video based, where things are being said to help you learn. To motivate, a tap on the shoulder or a word of praise could be a good way of motivating. To integrate, I may want to, in a company when there are 4 divisions, I may want to have a communication exercise so as to integrate all the processes so that everybody is in sync with whatever needs to be done. To relate to what is happening, I need clear communication. To entertain, I think we've seen enough jokes and other things being said to entertain people, or singing, or sharing a story. Anything could be entertainment. Communication has unlimited scope which can be understood under 2 broad headings: external dimension and internal dimension. An external dimension involves, as far as a business is concerned, talking to its stakeholders, talking to its customers, talking to media. The internal dimension is where it needs to communicate within the business to its employees, to other people who serve the company. In addition to external and internal dimension, the scope of communication can be further expanded to include oral and non-verbal communication. Oral, when I speak; non-verbal, the gestures and everything that goes with it. Interpersonal, intrapersonal and mass communication, which we already spoke about. Human communication. Reading, writing, speaking and listening, which are all the 4 different skills that are used to communicate. Functions of communication. Information sharing. Why do we communicate? We communicate because we want to inform. Feedback. When we communicate, what is the response that we get? That is feedback. Influence. Through communication, we may want to influence a crowd, a team, to do what we want to do. Problem solving. One of the best methods is by sharing and communicating. Assist in decision making. Communicating in the form of data, facts, help in decision making. Facilitating change. Change is a very long drawn process, and to facilitate change, a lot of communication needs to be done in an organization, so that there is a lot of clarity as to why we are doing what we are doing. Group building. It's a motivation exercise to bring a group so that they can achieve the objectives of the organization. Gatekeeping. What we convey to the external world and what comes from the external world. Gatekeeping does that. Conveying the right message. We always would like to convey the right message so that there is no distortion and the message reaches the proper ears in the proper fashion. Helps in coordination of effort. Anything that we want to do regarding a project, if we all get together, talk, communicate, then it's a coordinated effort towards achieving the objective. Good industrial relations. If there's a good communication channel built, viewpoints respected, then there is a good relationship between the management and the subordinates, which can be leveraged to achieve a lot of good work in business. Development of managerial skills. Communication channels are a nice means of learning for a manager when he observes the various communications and the way things are handled by various human beings, gives him feedback to improve his style of managing. Ensuring effectiveness of policies. Policies well written and well communicated bring a lot of clarity to people who are using those policies, and there will be less violations as far as the company is concerned. Motivating people performance feedback. Performance feedback requires a careful and effective communication between the boss subordinate and the subordinate boss, because ultimately the objective is that the person accepts the feedback and is motivated enough to do better the next time. A job instruction. Again, a well written job instruction brings clarity to the person who is doing the job, and a job well done ultimately helps in the business. Controlling people. Data well written, captured on time, and when it is received by the manager, helps the manager to control his people, and if there are any deviations, to rectify the mistakes, if any. Spreading rumors, that's another channel of communication, and if we get to know about it, we can arrest it or use it to the advantage of the organization. Emotive functions. If we want to congratulate an employee for the good work done, we could call upon a meeting and congratulate in front of everybody. That's an emotive function that is also done through good communication exercises. Evaluation of communication effectiveness. How do we evaluate whether communication has been effective or not? I think the famous Chinese whisper talks a lot about how communication normally gets distorted. Fidelity of communication talks about that, saying when the communication is not distorted, then there is fidelity of communication. Economy. How in the least possible method we can convey what we want to convey. Congruence. There is a nice get together of the verbal and the non-verbal ways of communication, which increases the effectiveness of communication. Influence. Communication should be able to influence people. Relationship building. Relations are built because of effective communication, whether it is boss subordinate or whether it is husband wife, whatever it might be. Relationship building happens through proper communication.